Hello everyone, welcome to ChessVisor, your wise choice to improve your chess. Let's talk about this game played between Christopher and Hans Niemann, and it is recently played in US Championship round number 1. So before we check this game, if you are watching this channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. So here Christopher was handling white pieces and Hans Niemann was handling the black pieces. So I am looking at the game from Niemann's perspective here. So here Christopher was he opens the game with a pawn d4. We have knight f6, knight c3. Interestingly, Christopher plays the Jabava London. Hans Niemann's favorite opening, or he made the chessable course out of it. But here he plays the same opening against him. So d5, bishop f4, e6, and then knight b5. So going after c7 and then knight a6, e3, bishop e7, knight f3, and here Niemann simply castles on the king side. After bishop e2 developing, he goes knight h5, going after the bishop, and bishop e5, f6, and after bishop g3, he plays c6 to kick the knight. The knight goes back, knight c3. But after this move, he goes further with the c5, and here Christopher simply castles, and now comes the move knight takes g3. So now Niemann, picked up the bishop pair. And after h takes g3, he goes c4. Usually, it is not recommended, to relieve the tension in the center. It is wise to always keep the tension in the center, but he closes the center with the c4. But the problem is kind of moves is that he is going to attack your base point. So he goes e4 immediately, and now comes bishop to b4, undermining the defender of the pawn. So he goes e takes d5, e takes d5, and now after this all the moves he plays knight b1. So going back to the back rank, and here Niemann rotates his knight back to c7, so bringing it into the game again. So knight okay, here c3, and after bishop d6, now comes knight b d2. So again Christopher is bringing his knight into the game. B5, strengthening this huge center or the space advantage he is having on the queen side. So knight e1, so simply rerouting the knight. I think probably it is going to go to e3 at one point of time. So bishop e6 finally develops a piece, knight c2, and then queen d7. So almost Niemann has completed his development with this last queen d7 move. And Christopher plays rook e1. We have a5, again gaining more space on the queen side. We have a3, stopping further pushing of b4 pawn here. And now interestingly he plays g6. So I think it's a kind of weakening move for your king side, because all the squares around the king is now kind of weak, but there are no white piece around to attack the king. So that's why I think he is playing g6. And another important point is that with g6 he may play king to g7 and then rook h8, pawn to h5, I mean h5 h4, like that he could open the h5. So that could be an idea. Actually in the game that's what actually happened. So let's continue the game. Knight f1, h5, and after queen to d2, threatening to come to h6. So king g7 stops that idea, and now comes pawn to f4. Okay, here Christopher also trying to attack something, or gaining more space in the center. Also he is having more grip on this e5 square. It's an excellent square for the white's knight, but for the time it is being controlled by f6 pawn. So here we go, rook h8, bishop f3, and here he comes with the move f5. That makes this bishop a little stupid, because there is no target and this bishop become bad now. And now after this move he plays rook e2, trying to double the rooks on the e file, which is completely open now. So knight e8, idea is very simple, that he wants to put the knight on e4 square. So here Christopher follows with the plan rook a e1. So after bishop f7, here we have knight rook e5. So interestingly, you don't want to capture this rook to win an exchange here. Actually, it is going to benefit white in the long run. So d takes e5 at let's say king h7. So king h2, knight g7. So trying to blockade the pawn, and knight to d4 is coming, knight e3 is coming. All in all, white is doing fine, and black has to be very careful. So going back in the game, he plays knight f6, completely ignoring the the rook which is on e5, but at one point of time he is going to capture it, so wait for it. So knight fe3, so bringing the knight closer into the game. Now comes the move h4. So h4 is an interesting idea again. As I was mentioning earlier, he wants to open up the h file and try to double up the rooks on the h file and try to checkmate the white king. And after this move here, he plays queen f2. And interestingly, you cannot take this pawn here because it looks like white is hitting the pawn thrice actually, in case if you are wondering. Say for example, if you take with the knight here, then we can play knight. First, bishop takes e5 is a mistake, so we should. I think knight takes d5 is the move. So knight takes d5, and after bishop takes d5, and now comes bishop takes e5. So you have to insert this move, and then when white takes the rook here, let's play bishop d6, and now it's kind of open the position, and I think it is. Black is the one who is kind of better here. So you don't want to give up another rook with this rook e5 idea. So now the bishops has, I think, more lines to work with, and the rook could occupy the e file or h file wherever he wants. He can stay there. But in the game, he goes queen f2, completely ignoring that idea. Queen f2 here, the best way to continue the game with the knight h5, because in the game he plays pawn h3. As per the plan, he wants to go to open the file. But if you play knight h5 here, this is actually coming with the threat of knight takes g3. So here simply white has to capture the knight. So like this, and after g takes h4, white is clearly better. So in this position, you have to take with the pawn, otherwise white is better. But in the game, after queen f2, he goes h3, rook e2, rook a d8, and now comes queen e1. So probably he has managed to form this elegant gun with, but the knight is in between. I'm just telling it. So knight e4, putting the knight into the center of the board. So very nice square for the knight. And now comes pawn g4. After this move, he plays bishop takes e5. Finally, he takes the exchange. D takes e5, h takes g2, and now the file is completely open. And after rook takes g2, here he plays rook h3. So gaining some time on the bishop, and also now it's time to double the rooks. And after e6, forking the queen and the bishop. After bishop takes e6, and now comes g takes f5. So here he plays bishop takes f5. Actually, you cannot take this here because rook takes g6 is coming, and you are completely. I think black needs to be very careful in this kind of position because white could infiltrate and attack black king very easily. So he goes bishop takes f5 first, and then knight takes f5 check, queen takes f5, and now knight to d4. So you cannot grab the free pawn because of the royal fork is coming. So queen f6, and now bishop takes e4. So before you take the bishop, and it's kind of you can easily pin that bishop against the queen. So he does the same. So rook e8, pawn f5, rook takes e4, queen f2, and after this move he threatens mate with the rook e h4. And then here Christopher goes rook takes g6 check, and after sacrificing the queen, and he is going to recover the same in a moment here. So f takes g6, and now comes rook h1 check, king g2, rook 4 h2 check. After king g3, he takes the queen, and after king takes f2, rook h2 check, and pick upping the base point of the pawn. It's a very important, and now black is completely winning. It's a kind of, it's very hard to defend with the knight and having this weak pawns, and he is going to capture the pawn next move, king f4, and then king takes g6, and king e5, pawn to b4, a takes b4, a takes b4, and now finally c takes b4. And after c3, he simply plays pawn to b5, but now Niemann sacrifices rook also, so rook takes b5, and after knight takes b5, this passer cannot be stopped, so he goes c2, and after king to d4, actually Christopher resigns the game. Why he resigns? Because black is going to queen the pawn in the next move. Even you can take the pawn, but it's a basic or the elementary endgame. I think he could easily win the game. So that's why, considering all of this idea, after this move, King D4, Christopher simply resigns the game. And after this game, he was actually refused to analyze this game, and he said it was such a beautiful game. I don't have to describe it, and that's it. He pushed off. So, what do you think about his interview, or what about this game? Let me know your ideas, thoughts, suggestions in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Still, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. As usual, this is Chess Wiser, your wise choice to improve your chess.